Hello humans, it's just Martine, and this week we're going to make a plan and see if I can finish 7 reads in 7 days. The mission is pretty simple. I have a lot of books I want to read, so if I could knock out an average of 1 per day, that would be incredible. They're a mix of 12 TBR's books and library loans for other things, book club books, etc. And I wish I could read more than 7 this week, but I think even 7 is going to be pushing it. I mean, that is insane. It's a book a day. Some of these books I have started before this vlog, some of them I haven't. We're basically going to sit here, talk through my plan, and then see if I can execute it throughout the rest of the week. Okay, so there are 7 slots for books, and I can't tell you what the books are, but I can tell you that there are 7 of them and that I've picked them already. And I can tell you that it's Monday afternoon. The good news is that I've already finished the first book because I had about an hour and a half left to read of it. So I read that today. It's Veterans Day, I don't have school, I finished up that book. So 1 out of 7 done, but that's the easy part. I've also started books 2 and 3. Currently, I'm 40% of the way through book 2 and 10% of the way through book 3. I think the real challenge of this will be as the week continues and we get to books that haven't been started yet. So I'm trying to work hard while I have the day off today to set myself up for success. I'm going to be keeping track of my progress through all these books through the week. Some of them are short, some are regular length. I will say I didn't throw myself completely under the bus and put any really huge books on this list. I'll probably be reading a chapter here, a chapter there from other books aside from these 7, and it could be that these 7 change. So we'll just go through the whole process of the week and see what happens organically. I think if I could end today 50% of the way through book 2, 20% of the way through book 3, and potentially starting book 4, I would feel better going into tomorrow. But honestly, it's just going to be difficult no matter what. So with that said, let's get reading. Well, hello there. Happy Wednesday. Hard to remember what day it is sometimes, especially because I did not update you yesterday because life has been a little crazy. I'm working hardcore on my thesis right now. And last night I also had gospel choir, so I was out late and it was just all a lot. So let's rewind a little bit and look at our 7 books in 7 days. Okay, so after I talked to you, I did some more reading that day. I ended up finishing the first book. By the end of last night, I had done 3 hours of reading and I ended up around 70% through book 3 and around 40% through book 4. Book 3 is a normal length book, book 4 is another shorter one. So the goal for tonight is to finish book 3. That way I'll be on track. 3rd book done on the 3rd day, and also make some more progress on book 4. I also need to start book 5. Yeah, I haven't started book 5, so that needs to happen. So again, the goals tonight: finish book 3, progress on book 4, start book 5. This is me closing my tiny notebook. It's so small. Isn't she tiny? I'm doing another 3 hours a day reading challenge this week. I'm not filming it as a 3-hour reading challenge. It's just something I'm doing with some friends over on Discord. So I need to read for 3 hours today, which should help with this. I've only gotten like 28 minutes in so far, so yeah. Off to reading we go. Why, hello there. Happy Thursday. Do I have an update for you? So basically, last night I did follow my plan. I finished book 3, I worked on book 4, and actually I ended up finishing it. And it's a book that I can actually talk to you about, so I'm going to give you a recap in a second. But then I also started book 5, and I got to 20% of the way through that. Now, I've only read for a couple minutes today, so I haven't made any significant progress since the end of last night, but that's what tonight is for. That and going to Zumba. Anyway, while I've got your attention, let me talk about one of the books that I finished last night, which was Time Was. The T is covered by this library sticker, which is incredibly unfortunate and annoying. So it looks like I'm reviewing a book called I'm Was, but I promise it's time. I'm giving this 3.5 stars. It's a bit of a weird premise, but it's pretty fun. And as you can see, it's quite short. It's like 140 pages. And in this book, we're following this guy. I think his name is Emmett. Am I remembering that correctly? And one day he stumbles upon this book called Time Was. It's a poetry collection, and in the book, somebody has stuffed a letter. And he reads the letter, and it's this letter between these 2 men, Tom and Ben, who went to war together and seemed to be in love. And so the author becomes interested in these 2 people and kind of tries to trace their story. But weirdly enough, the next time that Emmett finds Ben and Tom, it's also in a military context, but it's in a different part of history. Like, they look like they're the same age, but years and years have passed between those two events. And so he's like, what is happening here? And so he tries to track down their letters with one another and any evidence he can get to try and figure out what happened to Ben and Tom. The ending was shocking, surprising, and fascinating. At the end of the day, it's getting 3.5 stars for a couple of reasons. The writing lost me sometimes. I don't know what it was. I have talked on my channel before about writing that is slippery versus not slippery. Slippery writing, there's nothing inherently wrong with the writing, it just doesn't stick in my brain. It goes into my brain and it slides right out. And when writing is slippery, the book loses its impact in some ways because my brain doesn't fully know what's going on. So this writing was a little slippery to me. Furthermore, some of the ideas explaining what was happening in this book were a bit confusing, which, to be fair, is because they're confusing phenomenon. Like, the characters were confused too. But that just lost me a bit because we had such a short amount of time to work with here. I really felt like some things could have benefited from being fleshed out. And when it's a really short book, you really think every page should count. And that's true for all books, but when you read a long book, you are aware that there will be some pages that probably didn't need to be in there. With a short book, you assume you needed all 142 pages to tell this story. And some of these pages, I just wasn't quite sure why they were included. But overall, I really liked the concept, and I had a generally fun time reading it, so 3.5 stars it is. What is the reading plan for today? Well, the reading plan is to get through as much of book 5 as I can, because the goal is to finish that tomorrow. So I want to set myself up to make that easy peasy. And I should probably also start book 6, because in the beginning of this week, I had 2 short books and 1 book that I only had an hour left of. Now I'm getting to the point where I have books left that weren't started before this week and are full-length regular books. So I don't know why I did that to myself. If I wanted myself to succeed, I should have put the easy things last and the hard things first, but that's not what I did. I guess because I do have the weekend, so the last things I need to finish, the difficult things are on the weekend. Maybe that's what I was thinking, but still. Now we're getting to the point where it's like, ugh, I believe that I can do this, I know that I can, but I am a little intimidated by the next few days. So, point is, I'm going to do what I can today on book 5, and we'll just have to go from there. Well, friends, it is Saturday morning, and we've got some work to do. A little bit of a catch-up first. On Thursday night, I did end up finishing a book. So Thursday night, I finished book 5. Done, dusted. And I started book 6. I read maybe 2% of it that night. And then yesterday, almost all of my reading attention went into book 6. And I made some good progress. I got up to 71%. I also started book 7 because I was like, I don't want to finish book 6, have not started book 7, and then have to absolutely drag myself through book 7. So I started that to at least get the lay of the land, and I'm 10% of the way into the last book for this challenge. So that's great. Here's how today is going to work. I'm going to dedicate some energy to finishing book 6. Book 6 is The Cloisters, and it's the Shelf This book club pick for the month of November. I'm going to read the last 30% of this book. I'm going to tell you what I think about the book, and then I'm going to focus on book 7, which is a 12 TBRs book. I'm going to try to make as much progress as I can in that book today. Now, I do have an event tonight, so I'm going to lose several hours of potential reading time in exchange for socializing instead, which is weird for me, but here we are. I have a Friendsgiving tonight, so I'll be at that. So the progress that I make today will almost exclusively be this morning and this afternoon. So we're gonna have to see what we can do with that. I can definitely finish The Cloisters, and then how much progress we make in the next book kind of depends. And then we'll have tomorrow to finish up that last book. Now the last book is, I think, maybe the longest one on this list, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. I have maybe 5 or 6 hours left in that book. It's a sci-fi book, not a huge one, but sci-fi tends to be denser than some of these other books I've been reading. That one's going to be a bit of a struggle. That's why this is a 7-day challenge, not a 7-day inevitability. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get to reading The Cloisters, and we'll talk when I finish it. Okie dokie. It's almost 11 a.m. and I just finished reading The Cloisters, which I'm giving 4 stars. This book is about this young woman. She is going to New York City for the first time to work in a museum for the summer. But then she gets there and they're like, oh no, the person you were supposed to work under is gone. Didn't we tell you? And she's like, no. And luckily, there's this dude who's a curator at another related museum who's like, we'll take her. And so she goes to work at this museum called the Cloisters for the summer. There she meets a pretty interesting cast of characters. We have another person in a similar role as her, Rachel. We have Patrick, the curator that brought her on board. We have Leo, the gardener. And some weird things are happening at the Cloisters. There's this really interesting fascination with old tarot cards there. And as the summer continues, our main character just gets more and more involved in everything that's happening at the Cloisters. I liked the vibe of this book, I think is the main reason it's getting 4 stars. Like, it was an easy read and the vibe was just nice. I liked the museum setting. I thought the characters were pretty interesting. The ending was kind of predictable but satisfying. Not predictable in a way that I was like, oh, this. But in a like, this is probably going to happen and I'm here for it. It's hard to describe what I liked about this. It just felt good reading it. Like, again, I go back to the idea of an easy read. The writing was easy for me to follow along. It wasn't slippery at all compared to this book. The pacing was good. The vibe was eerie in the right way. Like, you knew nothing absolutely insane was happening for most of it, but you got the vibe that something was just a bit off. And I found the description of the Cloisters really interesting, and just the whole setting situation was good. I'm pleased with that one. That was Lizzie's pick for Shelf This. That officially means I have finished my 6th book for this on Saturday morning. So hopefully we should be in a good position to finish this 7th book. I might take a break for a little bit and then get back to reading. If I had to set a goal for book 7 today, it would be really great if I could get to at least 50% of that book, if not more. That would make me feel plenty comfortable for tomorrow, because I know I can read half a book in a day. Back to it, I guess. Happy Sunday. Friendsgiving was really fun last night, and I got to 70% of my 7th book, which means I'll definitely finish my 7th book today, which is super exciting because that's the whole point of this video. So here's currently what everything looks like. Books 1 through 6, done and dusted. Book 7, I have an hour and a half left. So I can totally do that because I'm planning to read for at least 3 hours today. So if the maths, it should be possible. Now I'm just stalling. I need to go and read so that I can actually finish this challenge. Imagine if I was like this close and then drop the ball. No, it's not going to happen. We're going to finish the book. Let's go. It is 12:13 p.m. and I have officially finished my 7th book. Again, this wasn't a like fully reading 7 books in 7 days challenge. It was a finishing 7 books in 7 days challenge. And I did accomplish that. Not all of them were long books, but there were 7 of them that I ticked off my list. So I'm proud of that. According to Bookly, it took about 24 hours of reading this week to accomplish this goal and was a little over 2,000 pages worth of reading. So hooray! Did I learn anything from doing this? I do feel like I have a tendency sometimes to switch between books too much, and I can just make more progress if I stay with fewer books at a time. And I feel like this week I was really good at like, yes, I read for multiple books per day, but I would read like a huge chunk of one book each day. That would be my focus. And I think that was really beneficial. My mind didn't have to switch between stories as much. I won't always do that because sometimes I just really want to skip between stories, and that's fine. Sometimes that's just how my brain works. But this was a good reminder that sometimes just choosing a book and powering through can make you feel like you're making a lot of progress. So that's a win. I definitely can't finish 7 books in 7 days all the time. Many of these books were regular sized, but none of them I would say were long books. There are no like Robin Hobb books, you know. I definitely would have a much harder time with this challenge, or it would probably be impossible, if one or more of these 7 books had been huge, which they weren't. But there's still 7 books, so I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back regardless. And that's going to be it for this video. If you liked this challenge, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Have you ever finished 7 books in 7 days? And subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!